Okay, good morning students. Today I want to teach a new topic that is also from the lesson respiration. In the last class of the respiration, I explained about the stages or steps or event in the process of respiration. What are they? Breathing. Second one, the gases exchange at lungs level. Third one, the gases are transported by blood. Fourth one, the gases exchange at tissue level. And fifth one, cellular respiration. Fifth one, cellular respiration. These are the 5 steps or 5 events in the process of respiration. Is it right? But in this class, we will see one by one in a detailed manner. We will see one by one in a detailed manner. In that, the first one, breathing. What is that? Breathing. When we are taking oxygen into body, after the utilization of the oxygen, we blow out the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Is it right? When we are taking oxygen, after utilization of oxygen inside our body blow out carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. But science is not agree simply. Science is always asking evidence. Science is an experiment. Science is an experiment. So that's the reason. When we are blow out, the blowout air, whether it's contain carbon dioxide or not, if you want to breathe, we have to do some of the experiments. If you want to breathe, we have to do some of the experiment, whether the blowout air contain carbon dioxide or not. So for that, we will do a small experiment. Look at the board. So, first we have to take 2 test tubes. These 2 test tubes are filled with lime water. This is called test tube number 1. This is called test tube number 2. So both test tubes are filled with lime water. So in the first test tube, we blow the air into the test tube. The first test tube. When we blow air into this test tube, immediately the lime water is turned into milky white. Immediately the first test tube lime water turned into the milky white. Why? Because when the lime water touches to the CO2, immediately the lime water is turned into the milky white. Is it right? Next time, if you observe the second test tube, this test tube is also having lime water. Okay? Next. So, take one syringe. With the syringe, we have to push the air into this lime water. But when we push the air through the syringe into this lime water is not turned into the milky white. This lime water not turned into the milky white. Why? Because this air is not having heavy quantity of carbon dioxide. Is it right? So that's the reason the reaction not takes place inside the second test tube. But if you observe the first test tube, when we blow out the air into this first test tube, the blowout air contains the heavy quantity of carbon dioxide. So because of that, the reason this lime water immediately turned into the milky white. Here, there is no change. But the change is very less. But there is no change here. The change we have to see in a clearly manner. So, according to this experiment, I will come to understand the blowout air contains carbon dioxide. One more small experiment. Whether the blowout air contains carbon dioxide or not. So, take two test tubes. These two test tubes, in the first test tube is filled with lime water, the second test tube filled with water. Okay. In first test tube and second test tube, both test tubes are filled with lime water and water. So, in the first test tube we have to keep one glass tube, and second test tube also we have to keep one more glass tube. These both glass tubes are keep it in your mouth. These both glass tubes are keep it in your mouth. Now we blow the air into this test tube. Like when we blow the air into this test tube, we have to observe the reactions in the test tube. First test tube, the lime water immediately turned into the milky white. If you observe in the water, there is no change. We can't see the change in the water. Because when we blow the air, that blow out air, it contains a heavy quantity of carbon dioxide. Because of that, the reason the lime water is turned into the milky white. Now, according to this both experiments, I will come to conclude the blowout air contains heavy quantity of carbon dioxide. Okay? Now, we will see the pathway of air in our body through our respiratory system. It means how the air is entered into the body from outer atmosphere to into the lungs. This is the pathway. This is the pathway of air. So, how this air is entered into our body? If you are explained in a systematic manner, that is the pathway of respiratory system. Pathway of respiratory system. So, how this air, where it starts and where it ends. Where it starts to enter into our body and where it's utilized in our body. Starting to ending. This is the pathway of air. This is the pathway of air in our body. So, what are the parts are involved in the pathway of air? See, now we will see one by one. The air first enters into our body through nostrils, from the nostrils to nasal cavity, from the nasal cavity to pharynx, from the pharynx to larynx, from the larynx to trachea. Trachea is divided into bronchioles. Next, from the each bronchioles is entered into alveolus, alveolus to blood. So, this blood is entered into the each and every part of our body. After the utilization of this oxygen, immediately the body is releasing carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide is collected by this blood. And again, this blood, the carbon dioxide sending to the alveolus, from the alveolus to bronchioles, bronchioles to trachea, trachea to larynx, larynx to pharynx, pharynx to nasal cavity, nasal cavity to nostrils, nostrils to go out into the atmosphere. See, this is the way to enter into the body. This is the way to go out into the atmosphere. So, this is the pathway. This is the pathway of air which is entered into our body. This total pathway is called respiratory system. This is called respiratory system. In this system, now we will see one by one. Each part is having specific function. Each part of respiratory system is having specific function. In that, the first one is called nostrils. Every one is having two nostrils. We are having two nostrils. the air is entered into body with the help of these two nostrils. Is it right? These are called nostrils. The air is entered into our body through nostrils. When it is entered into body, where it reaches to the next part, that is called nasal cavity. What is that? Nasal cavity. So this is nasal cavity. This is nasal cavity. So if you observe the lining of the nasal cavity, it is always moist in nature. It is always moist in nature because of the lining of this nasal cavity. The lining of this nasal cavity is filled with mucus glands. The mucus glands always secrete mucus. Because of this mucus, this lining always it is moist in nature. Okay, from this lining of this nasal cavity, some of the hair-like projections comes out. Hair-like structures comes out. What is the use of these hair-like structures in the nasal cavity? When we are taking oxygen into the body, so here these hair-like structures filters some of the dust particles in the air. Okay? When we are taking oxygen, in the oxygen there are some dust particles, tiny dust particles. The tiny dust particles are filtered by these hair-like structures. Not only that, when the air crosses to this nasal cavity, when the air touches to this moist or mucus, the outer air immediately it's turned into the body temperature, because when this air crosses the moist of this nasal cavity, here itself that air is turned into the body temperature. It is too much cool or too much heat, whatever it may be, I would say. But when it is crosses to this nasal cavity, immediately the air is turned into the body temperature with the help of this moist in the nasal cavity. Okay, so this moist is also filters the dust particles. This moist is also filters the dust particles. This is about nasal cavity. This is called nostrils and nasal cavity. Okay, right. Next one, pharynx. Called pharynx. This is called pharynx. This is nostrils. This is called nasal cavity. And third part, this is called pharynx. Pharynx is the common passes of food and air. Pharynx is the common passes of food and air. Actually, when we are taking oxygen from nostrils and it crosses to the nasal cavity and reaches the pharynx. And when we are taking food, first it's entered into the mouth. After entering into the mouth, next, it reaches to the pharynx. It means the pharynx is the common passage for both food and air. That is the pharynx. But here, one more important part is there. In the pharynx, there is one important part. It is a flap-like structure. It is a flap-like structure. It is small in nature. It is a cartilage tissue. It is a flap-like structure, muscular flap-like structure. That is called epiglottis. That is called epiglottis. Here, there is a flap-like structure. That is called epiglottis. What is the function of this epiglottis? It controls the movement of food and air. It controls the movement of food and air. Who is the controller? Epiglottis. Where it is located? In the pharynx. So when the air is entered into the pharynx, immediately the air it should be sent into the it should be entered into the windpipe. Is it right? So who will direct this air when it reaches to the pharynx, from the pharynx to who send it to the windpipe? Who is the director there? Epiglottis. The epiglottis is sent into the air into windpipe or air pipe. But when we take food, that food it should be entered into the esophagus. It should be entered into the esophagus. Who will direct into the esophagus? The food material. The food material is sent into the food material is entered into the or sent into the esophagus by the direction of the epiglottis. The epiglottis is the director of the movement of food and air. Food and air. So this is the important part. The pharynx is the very important part. So the next part is called larynx. What is that? Larynx. This is called larynx. The starting portion, the starting part of the windpipe, the starting part, this is called windpipe. The starting part of the windpipe is called larynx. What is that? Larynx. Here in the larynx, there are two speakers. Because of that speakers, when it's vibrate, the sound produce. Different sounds will come out. So in the larynx, there are two vocal cords. What is that? Two vocal cords. So when we take oxygen into the body, after utilization of the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, the air comes out. So when the carbon dioxide comes out, it crosses this vocal cords. Here there are two vocal cords. It crosses the vocal cords. So when the air touches to these vocal cords, the vocal cords will vibrate. The vocal cords will vibrate. That leads to give a sound. When the vocal cords vibrates, immediately the sound will be produced. The sound, according to that sound only, we are talking each other. The vocal cords, where it is located? The vocal cords are located in the larynx. Okay, next part, that is called windpipe. This is called windpipe. So this windpipe, if you observe, there are some C-shaped rings. See, if you touch here, there are some C-shaped rings. Is it right? These C-shaped rings are made up with cartilage tissue. Because of these rings only, the windpipe it stands in erect position. If there is no C-shaped rings, the windpipe will be collapsed. There is no C-shaped rings, the windpipe will be collapsed. So this is windpipe. Means when the air entered into the pharynx, from the pharynx to the air is entered into the larynx, from the larynx to the air entered into the windpipe. So the windpipe, if you see the windpipe, pharynx, larynx. So next, this windpipe is also called trachea. What is that? Trachea. Trachea is also called as windpipe. Windpipe is also called as trachea. The trachea next is divided into two branches. See, two branches. These are the two branches. If you single, if you call branching. if you call both branches. Is it right? So after these two branches are entered into the two lungs, these two branches are entered into the two lungs. One branch is entered into the right lung and another branch is entered into the left lung. Is it right? It means the trachea is divided into two branches. So again, when the branches is entered into the lungs, each branch is divided as a fine thread-like structures. They are called branchioles. What is that? Branchioles. These are called branchioles. These branches are divided as it's a fine thread-like structures. They are called branchioles. Branchioles. So each branchiolus is entered into a sac-like structure which is in the lung. Each branchiolus, for example, this is a branchiolus. Each branchiolus is entered into a sac-like structure that is called alveoli. What is this? Alveoli. What is this? Alveoli. So these are the sac-like structures which is present in the alveoli. This is not 1, 2, like 10,000 like that, not like that. A numerous sac-like structures are present in the lungs. They are called alveoli. The alveoli is the structural and functional unit of our lung. Alveoli is the structural and functional unit of lung. So each branchiolus is entered into the alveoli. Here there are some blood capillaries. Blood capillaries. So the oxygen when it is reaches to the alveoli, from the alveoli, with the help of these blood capillaries, the O2 is entered into the blood. The O2 is entered into the blood. From the blood, actually, already this blood collected the CO2 from different parts of our body cells. So this blood is releasing into the CO into the alveoli. This blood releases the CO2 into the alveoli. So now this alveoli is having oxygen. This oxygen is entered into the blood with the help of capillaries. It means the gases exchange takes place in the alveoli. The gases exchange takes place in the alveoli with the help of blood capillaries. With the help of blood capillaries. Now this alveoli is having CO2. See, the blood is released the CO2 into the alveoli. From the alveoli, it's entered into the branchioles. From the branchioles, the CO2 is entered into the trachea. From the trachea, the CO2 is entered into the larynx. From the larynx, the CO2 is entered into the pharynx. From the pharynx, the CO2 is entered into the nasal cavity. From the nasal cavity, the air is entered into the nostrils. Through the nostrils, the air comes out. It blows out. What is that air? That is called CO2. That is called CO2. See, in a sequence manner, the air is entered into the nasal cavity with the help of nostrils. From the nostrils, nasal cavity to pharynx, from the pharynx to larynx, larynx to trachea, trachea to bronchus to alveoli, alveoli to blood. Here already the blood is having carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide here actually in the alveolus, the gases are exhaled. Then oxygen is entered into the blood. From the blood, the CO2 is releasing into the alveolus. From the alveolus, branchioles to trachea, trachea to larynx, larynx to pharynx, pharynx to nasal cavity nostrils, through the nostrils it comes out into the atmosphere. This is the pathway. This is the pathway of our respiratory system in our body. But each and every part is having specific function. Each and every part of our respiratory system is having a specific function. The most important part, what is that? Pharynx. Because here there is a additional important part is located. That part name is called epiglottis. What is that? Epiglottis. This epiglottis is the director for movement of food and air. The food, it should send into the esophagus. The air, it send into the trachea or windpipe. Otherwise, it leads to different problems. That we will discuss in the next class. Okay, so this is about pathway of our respiratory system in our body. Thank you.
Let us observe the pathway of air from nostrils to alveolus. Nostrils. Generally, the air enters into the body through nostrils. Nasal cavity. It removes the dirt present in the air with the help of hair that grows from its sides. It has moist surface. As the inhaled air passes through the nasal cavity, its temperature is brought close to the body's temperature. Nasal cavity collects the water vapor present in the air, hence it becomes more moist than before. Pharynx. Pharynx is a part of digestive system and also the respiratory system. The function of pharynx is to warm and moist the air and carry it into the lungs. The human pharynx is usually divided into three sections. They are nasopharynx, epipharynx, oropharynx, mesopharynx, laryngopharynx, hypopharynx. Epiglottis, a flap-like muscular valve, controls movement of air and food towards their respective passages. Larynx. Larynx is commonly called as voice box. It is an organ present in the neck of animals, reptiles and mammals. The function of larynx is, it helps in breathing and sound production. The voice box contains vocal cords. When air passes from lungs to the vocal cords, it causes them to vibrate and manipulates the pitch and volume based on the speech, songs, etc. Trachea. The trachea or windpipe is the tube that connects the pharynx and larynx to the lungs. It allows the passage of air to the lungs. Touch your neck to feel the tube-like structure. Bronchus. The lower end of trachea or windpipe is divided into two bronchi, leading to each lung. A bronchus is also called as a main or primary bronchus. The function of bronchus is, it helps in passage of air in the respiratory tract that carries air into the lungs. Bronchioles. The bronchi is further divided into smaller branches called bronchioles. In bronchi, the exchange of gases does not take place. Alveolus. Bronchioles finally get terminated in clusters of air sacs called alveolus. An alveolus is an anatomical structure that is in hollow cavity shape. Alveolus are very small and numerous and are found in the lung parenchyma. The exchange of gases takes place here as blood capillaries take in oxygen and push out carbon dioxide. The entire passage of air from nostrils to alveolus is moist and warm. While breathing, the air moves from the nasal cavity to the pharynx. Here is a tricky situation from the pharynx. There are two passageways, one to the lungs and the other to the stomach. This traffic is maintained properly by a flap-like valve called epiglottis, which protects the tube to the lungs by arresting entry of food. Observe the pictures and discuss the epiglottis and its functioning while breathing or swallowing. This valve closes temporarily when we swallow food and deflects the food down towards the stomach and maintains it out of the trachea or windpipe, which is the route to the lungs. When we breathe air, epiglottis opens more widely and air enters into the lungs. For guiding the function of epiglottis and passage of food and air, nervous regulation is essential.